All right, ladies, welcome to the 11th episode of our Outrageously Successful Women in Real Estate series. My name is Judy Weber, and I am one of the co-founders of the one and only real estate coaching and training company, Just for Us Girls, livyGirl's Success Boutique. I'm also proud to say that I, along with my sister Jan, started the best girls guide, or the best Facebook group out there. It's Girls Guide to Outrageous Real Estate Success. And if those of you here live or listening to the replay are not members, you're not one of the 25,000 ladies across the world who are members, I want you to come join us because it's a great place to be. Well, today I'm very blessed to be interviewing not only an amazing woman professionally, but a dear, dear friend, Suzy Truax. And so before I begin the questions, I want to give her a proper introduction. But before I do that, I have to say, I only have known Suzy, we've met about 2 months ago, maybe not even quite that long. And it was an immediate connection. She has homes on both coasts, and she's been in the Girls Guide for a little bit. We reached out to each other, met for coffee, and it was an instant click. But the neatest thing, more than that, she's like a sister, all right? So, me and my twin sister, Jan, well, now we have triplets because Suzy not only shares our birthday month and our birthday, but our birthday year. So we're going to be 53 on Saturday. So, woo-hoo, happy.
45.
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Happy birthday, Suzy.
Happy birthday.
All right. Let me give you a good introduction here. From securing the #1 spot in listings and overall sales volume to purchasing and managing an extensive income property portfolio to discreet representation of high net worth and celebrity clients, Suzy has attained truly mastery of her craft. She and her team represent the very pinnacle of the modern real estate professional. Suzy is a tech and data native. She is crypto fluent, which totally is over my head, and she is customer centric. She's assembled a team of real global high achievers to provide her clientele world-class expertise in a very complex Bay Area real estate landscape. But more than that, she's also an East Coast girl as she leads a team of amazing agents near me in Greater Philadelphia. She's an insatiable learner, and she has nearly 20 years of amazing experience that we're going to be going through a lot here. Additionally, she has launched and managed several major metropolitan real estate franchises. She sits on the board of directors right now of eXp World Holdings, and she chairs the Agent Advisory Council of eXp Realty. So without further ado, I want to introduce an amazing woman in real estate and a very, very dear friend, Suzy Truax.
Wow, Judy, who is that you were talking about? Did you make all that up? Thank you so much for that introduction. Hi, ladies. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for this meeting today. I hope that I can help your viewers in any way. They can reach out, ask questions. But more importantly, Judy, I just want to say, wow, the connection was instant because I found a sister in our passion for empowering women, and that's super important to me. So thank you for what you and Jan do. I know that, 25,000 women that you're pouring into every day through Facebook with just inspiration and actual practical knowledge. That's huge. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you, Suzy. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. Well, listen, let's start in the beginning. You have quite a story about how you came into real estate. So how about we start there? How in the world did you find your way into real estate?
Yeah, it was really literally by accident. All those stories, you hear the speakers who had the near-death experience or something, that pivot point that changed their life. I actually did have that. And it's true. It was literally, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 3 children under the age of, I guess in 1998, it was 3 children, 5, 7 and under. And one day I was having a funny feeling in my chest, and I went to the emergency room, and they were like, hey, you're having something with your heart. So the next day, after overnight stay, I found out I had a leaking valve in my heart. Well, didn't even have Google MD at that point in time, but I decided I was dying. And pretty much because of the medicine they give you when your heart's acting funny and with arrhythmia, I felt like I was dying. So that day in 1998, I decided I had to do something different, because we were just like normal young families living paycheck to paycheck, wondering, just paying bills, buying shoes. And I really wanted to take my kids to Disney World. And so to me, that became my singular focus. I'm dying, and I'm definitely taking my kids to Disney World. Well, good news is I didn't die. And those people don't die from a mitral valve minor regurgitation at the age of 30 something. But anyway, so that's how I got into real estate. I was reading a newspaper article, and the Philadelphia Inquirer on a Sunday Inquirer magazine said that women in real estate, women brokers make an average of $150,000 a year. And the time is flexible. So, and that's the big joke. But that was what drew me into the industry. I'd actually taken the classes for my license when I was 22, but never actually, fulfilled actually sitting for the license. So that's how I got into this industry, got really super clear on my big why. And this was a good path to pursue it.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So walk us through maybe those early days. So you got your license, you got these little ones. How did you make it work? Where did you start?
Well, I guess, that was and if anybody's in their first 2 years in business, just know that the first 2 years, you're not going to feel normal. It's not going to feel comfortable. There's nothing you can read. It's a baptism by fire industry, and you just have to get out there and actually do things. And so it was interesting because, I had the little kids and I was working the flexible schedule. I started to have success sort of by accident early on. I didn't have, I had the internet, but I had my 8-year-old set up my computer for me and give me an email. Yeah, it's a funny story.
I love that.
It's so true. I maybe those of you who are a little bit older remember when Gateway was the first sort of personal home computer situation, and my 8-year-old unboxed that for me, plugged it in, and actually gave me an email address where I told Pete, hey, make it really hard so people don't hack my email. Well, I made my email address like SFZG156, like that was the most ridiculous thing. That was my level of understanding of the internet. So the good news about that is I had no preconceived notions or limiting beliefs on what my real estate business should look like. I was just doing real estate, mostly, just talking to people's sphere of influence by just natural networking, not even purposefully networking. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of, how I became successful. Just people knew that I was in real estate. I also had a huge network due to the fact that I had 3 children. And so I had other, their activities and parents and things like that. So that was the easy way to get started, honestly.
Okay. I have one quick question and then a longer follow-up on the whole kids and networking opportunities. First is, how old were you then when the kids were at this age and you got your license?
So let me think. I was probably 34.
Okay. So had you had any sales job before that?
I did. I had done advertising sales for a business-to-business publication in the Philadelphia area, and also advertising sales for newspaper. But I certainly had zero critical sales training, not like as if I had worked for Merck and gone through their sales training program or some other corporate. It was literally a raw natural talent, honestly. Raw natural, just liking to talk to people.
Gotcha. Okay. Because as we talk to ladies every day, so many, when I say, okay, you've got kids, tap into that and, really build the relationships. Can you walk us through what that looks like practically? And what I want you to address, Suzy, if you can, is so many women say, well, I like these ladies and men that I, go to karate with when, as we're sitting there watching the kids do their thing or whatever their activity is. But how do I talk about real estate, or how does that become part of my sphere? Can you address that?
Yeah, sure. So, and just to piggyback on that, 2 things. The first time that I took my taxes to a CPA, because the first year in business, it was simpler. The second year, it was more than I could manage. And I took him to a CPA, and he asked me repeatedly if I had any more receipts. And I said, no, why do you keep asking me that? He said, because you run your business at an 85% profit margin, and that's unheard of. And it wasn't until he told me that I realized, yes, all of my business is coming from my sphere of influence. So just if you're in that position where your kids are playing soccer, or you're waiting for your daughter at dance, it's the easiest thing in the world. I don't lead with real estate. I always have been able to naturally draw people out into a conversation because I'm curious about them. So, whatever the question is, oh, hey, are you so-and-so's mom? I'm Suzy, very nice to meet you. So-and-so, what school do your kids go to? Because a lot of times when they're in activities, oh, okay. Oh, where do you live? Do you live in that neighborhood near the school? Just literally just trying to get to know, looking for that common ground. It's not even really about real estate. It's about getting to know the person as a person. And so, and just being curious about their lives. I mean, you don't want to seem like you're going for the kill every time. It has to be natural. You just want to grow your circle of friends. And then what happens is you get invited to a lot of parties and your kids complain, and you have the excuse that you're going to work when you go to the parties. So that's essentially how it worked for me. And just, constantly just being visible with people. It's just networking, but softer because it's around your children.
Okay. So how do you broach the subject of real estate? And again, I know what you're saying, but I want you to say it in your words. Like, when do you know? Is it just your gut to know when you can say, oh, by the way, I'm a real estate agent and I, love real estate and I know this market, blah, blah, blah. So when does that really come up?
Yeah, so usually it starts with me asking them the question. So, are you new here? A lot of times people are new I can tell from their accents, or, I've lived in the same community in Pennsylvania for a super long time. And so just asking them questions to dig deeper about them. And then I'll say, oh, well, so what do you do? Or, I get to that point where I can feel comfortable asking them what they do. And it seems like just a natural give and take in a conversation that someone will ask what you do. And then when you tell them you're in real estate, I find it to be one of the sexiest subjects on the planet. Not for me, but for other people are intrigued by this. It's literally as soon as if I'm at a party or some kind of event and people ask what you do for a living, then they want to know, what do you think of this, especially right now, because the market is, wobbling right now. They want to talk about it. So it's more the give and take. I'm going to be very curious about them and intrigued and interested in them. And then I will ask them what they do. Are you a stay-at-home mom? How lucky, blah, blah, blah. And that even just that's a leading question. If I say, oh, you're a stay-at-home mom, you're so lucky. I started working when my blah, blah, blah was, Joshua was 4 years old. They're naturally, just out of human behavior, going to remotely be interested in what you do if you're actually just having a casual conversation.
Okay, excellent. So what did you do, if anything, beyond that, like building your natural relational sphere?
Just, staying active in my community, volunteering at school, belonging to the local gym, meeting with other women or business people, like the local business networking thing. It's just to be, committed in your community. I think that just shows where your heart is, and people want to work with other people who are also interested in giving back in their community. I coach the girls softball team. I was on the board of it's not women's, but girls basketball league in my local area. So just giving back of my time to something more than making money.
Okay. Question for you about the networking, the business networking. So I know you, so I believe that for you, that would be fun to talk one-on-one with a stranger. Am I right about that?
Yes, there's something wrong with me, but yes.
Because me and Jan feels the same way. It's really, I have to set myself up and pretend I'm the host and kind of get my whole mind wrapped around that, and then I can do it. But I'd feel much more comfortable talking from a stage to thousands. That's totally fine for me. And then, after that. So for those that feel more like me, is there any advice that you have when you're at a networking event and you really want to kind of keep your back to the wall when you know you really shouldn't do that?
Let me think about that. That's hard for me to put myself in those shoes, but I just think of it this way. Really, truly, everyone feels the same way. There are some people that'll have the little cluster of folks talking around them, but really everyone feels the same way. Look for the person who's also wanting to turn their back to the the room, and just go up and kind of give them a little elbow or something, and like, hey, how's it going? Isn't this fun? Something small talky to get the conversation started. Other people are absolutely feeling the way you do. I always tell people this, and I'll tell all the ladies here, there is nothing special about me. I am just like you. I just recognize that we are all the same, and I'm not afraid to, feel uncomfortable, I guess I want to say make a fool of myself, but feel uncomfortable. And because I want to connect with the other person, I have a deep desire for connection in a more intimate setting, like a one-on-one or a small group. So just remember the other people are also feeling awkward, and just, oh, what do you do? If you're at a business networking, hi, I'm Suzy. What's your name? Okay, so what's your business? How did you find out about this networking thing? Just questions. I always ask questions about them.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Tell us about how you were recruited to Remax and you had a big aha.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So there I was having all this, accidental success because I didn't even know what I didn't know in real estate. And I had this gentleman, his name is Rudy. You'll hear me mention him anytime I talk about my career. Rudy, I consider a mentor for simply what he shared with me. He kept bugging me to go to lunch with him, bugging me for coffee. Finally, my friend worked on me enough that I had grabbed coffee with Rudy. And this is where I learned the importance of knowing my numbers in real estate. I know a lot of people who are taking their real estate exam or they're fresh in real estate, and the math part is the part that scares them. We know how to do 3% commission. I know you know that, ladies. But what I didn't know was how to take the 3% commission and my royalty fee and my commission split and my training fee and reverse engineer that number to find out what I really would have made versus what the company made. And so Rudy was kind or mean enough to show me how to do that math. And when I realized that first year in business, I took home 50,000 and the company took home 100 and some thousand. That didn't feel good to me. And so the big aha, two things: know your numbers. Even if it takes, look, we have YouTube now. There's anything you want to learn. I learned how to open my SD card holder on my Samsung phone last night from YouTube. You can learn or reach out to me and I'll show you how to reverse engineer your numbers so you can see what you're leaving on the table. So it's because it's knowing your numbers also helps you know your value in the business. So, to me, what I didn't realize is that I was really valuable to the company, but it looked like I was only this little newbie agent. And then the other part that was a super big aha and has been a benchmark of my career decision-making is that integrity is super important to me. And I had sensed with my early brokerage that integrity wasn't there. And I kind of knew that it wasn't there. And with Rudy, just his integrity is impeccable. And I remember one of his early statements was, be impeccable with your word. And that's extremely valuable to me. I only want to be around and in business with people of high integrity, because it's a hard enough industry where to be looking over your shoulder all the time is, not productive for you to be successful. So those are my big ahas. Know your numbers because it lets you know your value. And also integrity is super important.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, you and I talked offline, I think it was yesterday or sometime recently this week, and we talked about mindset and how important that is. You mentioned earlier about you really didn't come to real estate with any preconceived notions or limitations, but many women come to this place with this less than mentality, and they're feeling like they're not worthy and they're afraid. And I think, we all have that fear to some extent. what's your best advice to get your mind thinking right? Because that's so important.
Literally, you have to become, I don't, you know, whether gals are praying or meditating, you have to become super aware of the things that you're telling yourself in your head, because it literally all starts with what's going on up here is what's going to happen out in the world for you. And so I have a couple of things that I always lean on. There's one book, and you can actually just listen to it free on YouTube. There's a gentleman named Wallace Wattles. He wrote a book called The Science of Getting Rich. And now this is really not about making money. It's literally a philosophy that, you know, we are all part of the same great creation, and each one of us has creative power within us. And the things that you think about and the stories that you keep telling yourself are the things that you're going to produce in the world. So it's super important to get clear on what's going on up here. And then I do also love, in addition to all the things that the Girls Guide brings, I love also Jen Sincero. You are a badass. Sorry for the bad word, but it's also about mindset and manifestation. I know a lot of gals know about The Secret. And I think this Wallace Wattles also predates The Secret, but it's the same thing. What goes on up here takes place out in the world. So, you know, I think fear is the biggest stumbling block that we have as women, fear and scarcity. And just know that those are that's all starting here. And everything you want in life and the world is on the other side of your fear. So you just have to know that you're going to feel it. It's normal to feel it, because no one likes rejection or failure. But, you know, especially for men, even the failure now is a badge of honor. So we need to start embracing that, just getting out there and doing stuff and seeing what works, tracking what doesn't, and just basically get out of our own way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And, you know, I think in virtually every one of these interviews that I've been doing this year, Suzy, we talk about fear because it's such a prevalent issue that we deal with. But a couple things: fear is a liar. It's a liar. I mean, there's nothing to be afraid of. You're not going to die when you knock on a door or when you get hung up on. You know, there's nothing to be afraid of. And the other thing is, do it afraid. Do it afraid. You know, I've spoken to literally hundreds of some of the top producers, including yourself, and there is no woman that said, or no man really, that if they're honest with themselves, that doesn't admit that they were afraid the first time you do anything. You know, it's really pretty scary. Right. But I'm also struck because I recently watched a Dottie Herman video, and she was all about, hey guys, failure is a good thing.
It is.
Then you learn from it. So yeah, it's one of those things. Yeah.
A culture amongst, I live in Silicon Valley, and literally, though it's the top concentration of billionaires and Fortune 500 companies in the world, there's so much money here. The men and women who are creating new industries, new companies, they compare how many failures they've had. They don't consider you really part of the game until you've gotten a couple, 3, 4 failures under your belt. So we need, as women, to start being more in the risk-taking department, not with our family and not with driving the car or anything like that, but with our businesses. You know, we need to get out there and do different things and try different things, because there's nothing wrong with making a mistake as long as no one dies.
I love that. I love that. Because look at Thomas Edison. How many tries did he do before he actually created the light bulb? And he said, I never failed. I was just learning along the way. So beautiful advice there.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Let's shift gears a little bit. And one of the things that you mentioned that you wanted to touch on was losing it all.
Yep.
The financial, crisis, and then divorce. If you could speak to that, I'm sure there's a huge nugget of wisdom.
Well, and leading from the fear conversation, I did not, even though I was having success in real estate, I did not find my way naturally to investing in real estate. I was about 4 years into selling and getting ready to, buy another house. And my then husband says, let's put this house up for rent. I'm like, what? Be a landlord? I literally cried. I was so scared. And so flash forward a couple years, it's 2007. We have 9 rental properties. Not only am I over my fear, but I'm like, and I still am addicted to investment properties. But losing it all was an interesting confluence. At the same time, my marriage, it just was. I consider it this way. My ex-husband is a super nice person, but I just keep growing and I just keep growing. So we had the McMansion, we had the house at the beach and all that stuff and all the rental properties, and it all had to go in order for, us to go our separate ways. So, and that was combined with the global financial crisis happening at the same time. So not only did I now have 3, let me think about it, maybe it was 3 young teenagers, sudden drop in income because of the global financial crisis, change in socioeconomic status due to my, divorcing. It was lean times, but I pivoted. Luckily I pivoted. And, I actually, at that time, I was more to the luxury end of real estate. I had purposefully become a listing agent and leaning on the luxury. So in our Pennsylvania market area at that time, 2006-07, the average sale price was still probably only about $275. And I was working in the 500, 600,000 price range. When the crisis hit, those were the very same houses that were just suddenly just sitting. In fact, it's just a rule of the economic cycle of real estate that the luxury market will go soft for everything else. And so I purposefully moved my business model to, instead of luxury listings, I went to back to becoming a first-time home buyer agent, because there's always plenty of those no matter what the market's doing.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that was it. I started over right there, 2007, 8, 9, in through that period.
Okay, gosh, I have so many questions, one after the other. First, how did you enter the luxury market? I mean, was that a natural indicator of the people that you were, talking with, be it at networking events or, just relationally?
I think that was, it was interesting how I found my way to that. I kind of am fascinated with new construction. And in our area, there were a couple of builders that came in and were building these, larger, newer houses. And so I became very familiar with what they had to offer. And I was living in a neighborhood that was sort of move up buyer neighborhood anyway. Like there were small singles, but the next natural progression is the, going from the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square foot house to the 4,000 square foot house. So I just happened to be in that move up buyer neighborhood. And it could have possibly also just been the time where the age of my children, and a little bit due to the fact that my market area was deeply influenced by pharmaceutical industry. And so that's always, I have, I would say every third of my clients works for Merck or Glaxo or something like that, J&J. So it was kind of just dynamics, basically.
Were you actively going after that pharmaceutical? Because I happen to know where you lived around there, right there was Merck in your backyard. So did you have a lot of friends that were already there?
Yes, tons, like literally lots and lots of people worked in pharmaceuticals that I knew. So that was easy. It was an easy conversation because I was immersed in that community, immersed in a community where that was just, the natural next progression, not for everyone, but it was certainly desirable. And then also being able to talk about how, it was within reach for people. I think understanding financing and the value of things is also a way to talk to people about the next step for them.
Excellent. So did you have a go-to mortgage person or two?
I had several. I think it's critical. One of the early reasons for my success, and I always forget to tell people this, but we do so many different things in real estate. We wear so many hats. One of the things that really laid a great foundation for me when I was early on waiting for the phone to ring at my brokerage on floor time and it wasn't ringing, I happened to connect with this young man who was also getting into the industry, but his dad owned a mortgage company. So we would I would, spend my floor time chatting with Lonnie about all the different types of mortgages. Well, what kind of credit score do you need for that? What do you mean Fannie Mae meets the Fannie Mae guidelines? What are the Fannie Mae guidelines? What does my client need to have in order to get the better vanilla mortgage? What's FHA entail? And so to this day, I really feel like that's one of my strengths, is understanding the money aspect of real estate. And if you can spend, even if you just spent an hour a week learning about asking your vendors who want your business, there's plenty of lenders who want your business, make it about something else other than you giving them clients. Make them give you information on how you can sharpen your saw, basically. And so even as recently as last week, I have an agent who's had her license for 4 years, and she has a deal that's coming apart because the FHA appraisal isn't coming in at the value. And she said to me, well, we're just going to get another appraisal. And I said, no, you're going to be wasting your money, because the FHA appraisal sticks for 6 months with the property, 90 days or 6 months. But regardless, it's important for us to know, not to be the lender, but to know, so we can counsel our buyers and sellers what could potentially happen. So
absolutely, absolutely. Now, I will be the first to say, I'm not a numbers person. I'm a words person. So for me, I struggle with that. So when you're talking about being an investor and dipping your kind of toe in that water, I've been wanting to do it. And ladies, look, and neither did Jan. And so she's like, 7-figure earner, and we've never done it. So I'd love to pick your brain on how you do that first step in the investing world.
Yeah. So, the first step in investing, I think, a lot of times right now, because of the way the market is across the country, people are looking at out of state, especially in California. I think the best place to invest is in your own backyard. If I were going to be a landlord, I wouldn't drive more than 15 minutes to take care of my investment property, because then it becomes another job. You want it to be income, not labor intensive. And one of the ways that you girls know, if you're out there in the market and you start getting a lot of market knowledge or product knowledge of what's, this is what this neighborhood sells for, this is what that neighborhood sells for. And all of a sudden, once in a while, you're going to see one come up, or you're going to see one come up that's undervalued. You're going to see something that comes up that, it might languish on the market for a while. So it might present an opportunity. I think the easiest way to get into it is to, honestly, I wish someone had told me this in 1997 when I bought my first house. Instead of buying a townhome, I wish I had used an FHA mortgage to buy a 4-unit apartment building, because it's only 3.5% down. It does require you to be owner occupant, but you 3.5% down to get into a 4-unit, as long as the numbers make sense. And there's a lot of ways to look at that, but rents go up over time. So there's always that factor in the rental properties. Fix and flips, I just look for things that, after all costs of sale, on the way in, what it costs to buy it and what it's going to cost on the way out, I need to make minimally $20,000, unless it's the Bay Area, and then we're talking $100,000. It all just depends on the investment. So there's a lot of ways to do this. The other thing that a lot of gals have been doing, and I know that I started dabbling in 2000, what year was that? 2003, I bought a vacation rental at the shore, and that did really well. I bought that with my sister, and then we sold it rather quickly and still made a profit. But about 4 years ago, I bought a foreclosed property at the beach in New Jersey. It was pretty ugly. I like ugly houses. I do love them ugly. My husband, not so much. He doesn't enjoy my vision, especially when he first encounters the property. But we did some reno to it. We used a Fannie Mae renovation mortgage, and now we are running it on Airbnb, and it's fairly simple, and it more than covers itself for the mortgage every year. So, and a little bit of cash flow too. But that's, a way to get someone else to pay for my retirement.
I love that. Oh my gosh. I hope you don't mind. I have a couple of follow-up questions on that.
Sure, please.
Okay. First of all, my thinking is when I think about being a landlord, I can imagine myself being called at like 2 a.m. for some toilet overflowing. And I'm like, ah. So I imagine when you're a landlord, either you or your hubby has to be pretty darn savvy in the fix-it world and available, or you need to get property management involved. So what's been your experience with that?
Yeah, so I haven't had a property manager yet, only because in the early days we were doing the management, and it's literally, it's toilets and garbage disposals most of the time. And, the way I write my leases is that, the first X $100 of repairs are on the tenant, especially if it's something like, I know when I was a tenant and my toilet needed unclogging, it was because my son threw a toy down it. And so, and so you just factor that in, and they're not going to call you in the middle of the night. I haven't had any of those, and it's really just, making sure about the maintenance. It's not letting it go and letting it go. It's, when you buy it, you have the home inspection, what the life expectancy is on these different systems. They all have their own different life expectancy, and you keep the guts of a toilet in your garage because eventually the guts of the toilet are going to go. There's things that are predictable. And so it's not that scary.
Okay.
It's really not.
Wow. It's kind of one of those things where once you experience it, I think that gives you.
I cried the first time though. Remember, I did admit to crying. I did cry. I didn't want to do it. It's very scary, but now it's like, yeah. Screening your tenants is the most critical part of it, and just maintaining good communication with them, especially if, you start seeing rent coming in a little late, but it's not hard.
What do you think about, what do you prefer, landlord versus flip? Which one?
I'd love to have a big bucket of cash to do flips, because those are super satisfying in that you buy something that's super not good looking and you turn it into something really pretty and you can make significant income. The downside of flips, especially like right now in the way the market's kind of wobbling, you factor all this, how much money you're going to make based on a projected date you're going to sell it, and we just don't know what the sales cycle is, how long this, I know in different areas of the country it's not cooled down yet, but it's definitely all trending that way. And so there's that risk side where I don't want to be left holding the bag, if you will. So I like it to have both things. If it doesn't sell, I want it to be a good rental. But for cash flow, I'm starting to think about building for retirement, adding more properties to portfolio, just so that Social Security is certainly not going to be enough to really keep anyone in the lifestyle that they're used to while they're working. So this is sort of my goal for the next 10 years, is to add in maybe about $8,000 a month income in rental income.
Okay.
So it depends on your goals.
Right. Gotcha. Well, is there some sort of program out there that you're aware of, or maybe something that you may write for us ladies who want to, dive into investing? Is there any program that kind of walks you through what you're describing?
Yes. So, I think a great place, and where I get a lot of information, because there's all kinds of real estate investing out there. And there's super risky stuff like fix and flips and using hard money. And then there's super safe stuff like syndication, where somebody else has vetted the project and, they have, not guaranteed, because there are no guarantees, but they have returns that they're projecting. And so you can invest a little bit of money and none of your time doing this. So I love the website called BiggerPockets.com. I get so much information. Well, I was at something called the Real Wealth Expo. It was a real estate expo. And there was a gentleman there talking about tax lien investing. And I'd heard of it, but he gave a presentation. And I've just been talking to my son about investing in CDs or something, now that the rates are showing a little bit better return. And so CDs are running about 2% right now. And there's companies that do tax lien investing, and they scrub all the information and they take the risk out, and it's earning 10 to 12% a year. And you can put a small amount of money into it. You can dabble in it. So BiggerPockets is huge database for that information. You can go on there and read the forums. You can ask questions. You can chat with other people in different areas. And I also like it for finding investors for properties as well. So I do actually post in the marketplace there. So it's a lead gen source for me as well.
Oh, neat. BiggerPockets is?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's get off investing, because I could talk to you on that for like 5 hours or so. Let's talk about your California relo and kind of starting from scratch.
Crazy. So, oh my gosh. So there I was, a team leader and a manager for Coldwell Banker, and always telling agents how to go out and get business. And, just like I'm telling you girls, your sphere of influence. And then I moved to California in 2014, and I have zero sphere of influence. I come to San Francisco knowing absolutely no one. And so now I have to learn how to do real estate all over again in a highly litigious environment, where once I got my license, I actually had to stop for a month and study eviction control and rent control and tenant buyout legislation, because the city of San Francisco, when a tenant lives in your property and you want to sell your property, you essentially have to pay them to leave. And it's not cash for keys. It's literally like $100,000 or some, figure. Yes.
Whoa.
Oh yeah. It's totally insane. And then they have rights if you sell the place or if you don't sell the place and you move in, there's all kinds of, so I had to stop what I was doing. And so first I had to learn a whole new area. Then I had to learn the legislation. And then I had to start going out there and trying to cobble together a business where I had relied on my personal network. And that was not going to work for me. I would be out of business today if I relied on that. So it was fun and humbling to, do the things that I have been teaching agents how to do, like door knock and make phone calls and do open houses and, try different things until you find something that works. So I did not do the dreaded Z or R.com. Because I think I'd already realized that, first of all, in my market, it's $1,000 a month to even show up in the top 4 or 5 on those websites. So what I did was grabbed as many open houses as I could right away. I wouldn't say I was super productive in them, because I still didn't have enough product knowledge when I started, meaning I didn't feel confident to talk about a house in a neighborhood because I had no idea what the neighborhood was. So literally you have to get out. If you're new in an area, you need to get out there every day and look at houses. You need to really start to learn the neighborhoods. Pick 1, pick 2, pick 3 in your area and become expert on that information. Open houses. And then I did join a service that provided me email addresses for certain areas. So I had chosen a geographic farm. The first time in my life I was doing geographic farming, but I was doing it I call it the lazy realtor. Yours is the outrageous, Girl's Guide to Outrageous Success. Mine's gonna be the lazy realtor because I like leverage. And so-
leverage is good.
Yeah. So I had gotten the email addresses for a couple of buildings in this area called Soma down in San Francisco. And I just put the emails together and sent out an introduction email, just like, hey, I'm Suzy. I specialize in your area, la, la, la. If you're thinking something along the lines, if you're thinking of buying or selling, and lo and behold, I got a response. And so I think it was over, 150 emails, but I got 1 response, and that was my first listing. And that was probably a good, I want to say maybe within a year of starting in San Francisco. By the way, also the other thing to know about San Francisco is we are a city that's 7 miles by 7 miles. There's almost around maybe 850,000 people, and at that time, there were about 300 houses on the market and 5,000 realtors.
Wow. Those are good stats.
No, to say it was competitive is ridiculous. So that was sort of how I cobbled it together, then just sort of stepping my way up that way. If you can get a listing by hook or by crook, then you'll build a business that way. You have to really focus on, I know there's gals that like to do buyer agency. I'm not sure, what the driving force is for me. It has to be about listings because that creates buyers. And that's how you actually can build your business and scale it faster.
Okay, excellent. And we're running out of time, but I want to ask you, now that you talked about listings, there's so many things I'm sure we won't get to. I'll have to probably have you back again at some point in 2019. But the listing presentations, we have a listing intensive, so we have a whole way of doing things. But I'm curious, what was the key to your success in winning those listings? If you had to point to one or two things, what do you think it was?
Knowing the building, knowing the market, that, specifically that market, not the general market, not the national market, not even the San Francisco market. What is exactly happening in your building with condos that have this many beds and baths? What are the detractor? I mean, we're afraid, a lot of times girls are afraid to offend the seller by telling them the truth. There's a way to deliver it diplomatically, but you do want to tell them, okay, your lack of a parking spot, though the other one bedrooms are selling for X, you don't have dedicated parking. We need to knock off, and here's the data. I always show them the data because it takes the emotion out of the conversation. They're not going to be offended if you have something that shows them what you're talking about, and do it with care. I care about you. This is why I'm showing you this. I want you to have a good outcome. So I would say I leaned on the data pretty hard in delivering, and just knowing more than, really trying to know more than the other agents, and not selling me. I really very rarely sell myself. It's more what's in it for them when they work with me. What they can expect, and regular communication. I set an appointment for the communication. It's not, I'm going to let you know once a week. I'm going to let you know either by email, phone, or text, which do you prefer, every Monday at 10:30 or whatever time works best for you. We're going to reconvene on what's happening this week and what's our next step going forward.
Love that. So I look at that as you taking control of the process, which I think is so important, to set the expectation and then you take control.
Yep.
And you're nodding your head. Yeah. Right. Yes.
Yeah. I know way more than they do. Even if I'm brand new in real estate and I've only been in business for 3 months, I still know more than they do.
That's right. And
it's actually to the client's detriment if we don't behave accordingly. Because
Yep, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I liken that to a doctor. Nobody would feel good in the hands of a doctor that said, I don't know, here's what it could be, but what do you think? It's like, no, take control. You're the professional.
Exactly.
Okay, let me ask you this. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. What do you think about social media and its impact on our business, especially as we try to build the business and lead gen, that whole thing? What's your take on that?
Literally, my first sale in California took place, actually, my first buyer in California was from social media. It was a friend who was visiting California, and I messaged her. And when we got together for coffee, it was a I guess not even, at that point we would acquaintances at most. And she was in California. I messaged her and we got together for coffee, and she's like, let's look at houses. I'm, really? And so if I had not, and that was by accident on social media. I mean, I've been more fortunate in my business by sheer luck than anything, but I think social media is the way it's all going to go. I still think there's a need for the face-to-face, but the social media allows you to build the relationship without actually spending the face-to-face time, and then you seal it when you're face-to-face. I am reading in forums all over the place in all different venues. People, 90% of their business is coming from social media. I have a gal that it's on my team here in California, and all she ever has done to develop business for her career is she blogs about probate. And I would say probably 75% of her business comes from her already pre-canned probate content from years ago that she just keeps recycling. Like, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And so I think that creating good content in social media is just the way this is all going to go.
That's awesome. It's interesting you mentioned about probate, because one of our one-on-one coaching clients recently got her certification. And so then I saw a recent post about that, and some of the ladies in that other group were curious about it. So I have this whole methodology on maximizing your certification on that. So in my spare time, I've got to put together like a course or something on that, because it is a wonderful opportunity.
Yep. And so literally she doesn't speak on it in public. She doesn't give classes on it. It's literally, here's my blog. I asked her, what do you do every day? I wake up, I post my blog on different places, and yeah. And still she did 24 million last year.
Wow. That's great, because she's positioning herself as the expert in that space. One last question, and I can't believe, but we have like 2 minutes before I have to get off of here, unfortunately. And thank you, Suzy, for this wonderful interview.
It's my pleasure.
But I want to ask you about your goals for 2019. What do you see for yourself and your team? And I've got to have you back, because we didn't even talk about the 2 teams, bi-coastal, that whole thing. But can you just kind of fill us in on how you approach goal setting in 2 minutes or less, right? For 2019.
Well, first of all, I think the goal setting, you know, this is the thing that we all need to do with our goal setting all the time. You have to do some soul searching, and what is it you want for your life and your business? And then once you recognize what you want for your life, then you drive your business goals based on what you're trying to achieve in your world. So for me, next year, you know, I'm so competitive with myself. We essentially 10x'd our business from last year to this year. My goal for next year, I really must have, I'm stating this to you girls and the universe, there must be 7 figures in GCI, not just GCI. My ancillary income, that can come in to be, you know, 150, 200,000. I must get my team fully formed in the Philadelphia location, because we're fully formed here in the Bay Area. I left an entire 15-year business when I moved to California, and $2 million of sales volume just sitting there. And when I waved goodbye, hey, see y'all later. Yeah, I'll find somebody else to help you. But I did not, you know, I have that huge sphere of influence. People still call me to list their properties. And now I can, because I'm living in both locations. So 1 million GCI, build out my team, and, you know, really fully functional in 2 locations, and have lots of fun and help other people get what they want. Those are my goals.
That's awesome. Excellent. Well, Suzy, again, thank you so much. You are a very important member of the Girls Guide. So ladies, unfortunately, the time has run out, but if you have additional questions, ask them in the Girls Guide. And that is a safe place where you can ask any and every question. And you have people that have just not even gotten their license, all the way up to people like Suzy, who've been in the business for decades. Suzy, once again, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And girls, reach out on Girls Guide anytime. I'm here to help. That's what I'd love to do.
Awesome. All right, ladies, thank you again, and have a beautiful, beautiful day. We'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all.